Okay, let's start. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Joint Ops Area and OPSAWG meeting. Note well, please make sure you understand those important legal issues. Basically, all your contributions to IETF, including your video, audio presentations, need to follow the IETF rules. And here you can find some meeting tips. And the in-person participant, please make sure to sign into the session, and please use Meet Echo to join the my queue and the participants in shows of hands. And for both in-person participants and remote participants, please keep your audio and video off. And here are some resources for IETF 119. And you can find the agenda, the Miracle usage, and also the technical assistance. Now we come to the first session. Welcome to the OPSAWG. It's chaired by Joe and Tianran and Hank. And before we start, we need a job subscriber and a minutes taker. Is there any volunteer? Yeah, Rob. Yeah, Rob for the minutes taker. Thank you, thank you. Oh, okay, let's go next. Now the working group status. Since last meeting, we published the 3 RFCs, and congratulations to the authors and the contributors. And then we have 1 draft in the RFC queue. Hopefully, it will be published very soon. And we also submitted the mod series to ISG for publication. And now we have 14 working group drafts. All of them are very readable, and we encourage you to review and comment. And we also run a call for adoption in OPSAWG for the incident young model. And then it's dispatched to an MOP working group. And anything to add?
Just for all the presenters today, please be on time. We have a very abbreviated 1.5 hours, and we have a lot of sessions presenting.
Yeah, and here is the OPSAWG agenda, and as you can see, we have very packed agenda. So yes, please, the speakers, please keep your time. Thank you. And any agenda question? If no, I think we can start the presentation. The first one, Matt, please.
Is Med here?
I don't think so.
He was in Enma.
So maybe we need to go.
Yeah.
Then maybe we go next to save time.
Yep. We'll come back to Med. I guess he's also doing simple fixes. So data manifest.
Yeah.
And this?
Hello. So yeah, so this is an update about the data manifest. Next slide, please. So to recall quickly, the goal is to be able to understand how some data was collected, and notably what was the source device, what was the information, the context at the time of collection. So I think we can go to the next slide. So the typical example is we receive a value at some point, and we don't have enough. We don't have any value after this point, after T1, and we want to understand if it's normal or not, basically. And this is the the idea of this draft is to be able to interpret the fact that we don't have any value or that we have a value after a long time. It might be because there is a bug, or it might be just because, for instance, the configuration was set to unchanged. And so we don't have any new data point because there was simply no change in the system. So this is the kind of information that we want to have in the system in order to be able to analyze the data a posteriori and to understand what's going on with the data. So next slide, please. So the proposal is two young models. So there is one which is the platform manifest, which is about the information of the platform producing the data, notably the model, the vendor, and so on, and also the young catalog. So the idea is that if there is a particular bug specific to that platform, we should be able to capture it a posteriori. And the next part is the data collection manifest, which is more about the collection of a particular time series. And for this data collection is all the configuration of the telemetry collection that is part of it. So the idea is that this data manifest and platform manifest are stored with the data. And so whenever we access the data, we should always be able to access the corresponding manifest. Next slide, please. So the changes, there were some minor changes, notably clarifying that we are speaking about network or a controller level module, so not something that is specific to a device. And another thing that we did is to align the example that we have for storing into a TSDB, so the part about keeping the data manifest along with the data. So we aligned it to the notation from this draft about the young label TSDB. And this, so basically this is the based on the feedback from Jan, and I think it's better that way. Even if there are still some open issue with that. For instance, in this way of storing data into the TSDB, we need to understand how to handle the fact that the value can be deleted. But so yeah, these are the main changes. Next slide, please. So the next steps for this draft are to work on the young modeling issue. So basically, we propose the draft that is called, so the name of the draft is full include, but I think it will change to full embed. And there is a presentation in net mode on Thursday. And the idea is to basically enable the inclusion of a particular young module inside the tree of another young module. And another part that we have to look into is to align with the draft of Jan, which is called Philatelist, about the telemetry. Next slide, please. So there are still some points about making the link for the platform ID. So I think we need to do something about that. And the last question is if there is something else than what is currently included that should be part of the data manifest. And I think that's all for me. So if you have any questions.
While people are thinking about questions, on your plan, Jean, here, I'm going to go back one. Speaking as chair, if you intend to add a normative reference to this draft, what if that draft is not progressed? So I see it's going to be presented in NetMod. I'll be there as just a participant. What would be your plan if that work isn't going to move forward?
So in that case, I guess we'll have to do with the copy pasted version, and maybe we'll have to adjust it a little bit better, because in that case, if we don't reuse it, we can change it a little bit. So, but I don't see. Yeah, basically, it will be to input the information that is already in this existing device level module at the inside this network level module, using maybe we can do a little bit of lifting so that we don't have exactly the same thing. But yeah, basically the plan would be to come up with the same information in a new module.
Jan.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to say I'm very much looking forward to merging these works in some way, aligning them in a good way. And regarding this full include or full embed, I definitely see the same problem. I'm also concerned with the timelines, just like Joe mentioned now, but I have stumbled on the same issue. Thank you.
Hopefully that can be some impetus for that other work. So thank you. With that, there's no more in the queue. I think we can move on. Thank you, Jean.
Thanks.
Back to you, Med.
So thank you. Yeah, so this will be, I would say, a bit of the work we are doing on the attachment circuits. So as a reminder, we have 4 drafts in that set. We start with the common specification. So we received the young doctor's review, which is really there was no major issue that raised in that review, only very minor ones. So we edit a new version to address that review, and we also made, I would say, one addition just to handle one requirement received from from one of the contributors for the attachment circuit at the network level, is to support the customization of the negotiation of the BGP capability. So we just added a provision for the identities for that. Other than I would say, these modifications we made recently on the comment specifications, so there is no pending issue for this one. The next one on the list we have is the attachment circuit as a service and the bearer as a service. So for this one, we received the Young review for it, and also the routing director review. Nothing major to spot on this. Only very editorial ones and minor aspects. And we did also, I would say, just to give you some of the point that or the changes we made recently on the specifications. It's basically adding some support, for example, for the LAC, for the bearer, support for some hierarchy in the way we are, I would say, inheriting some information between various bearers, because it depends on some complex configurations. So there is a need to support this kind of hierarchy. Now we also support time synchronizations, at least to expose that a bearer is capable, I would say, to enable time synchronization at the physical layer. This is a requirement received from the people who are in the ORAN. So we have this supported right now in the bearer as a service. For the attachment circuit as a service, yeah, we made also some modifications, mainly to expose the services that are bound to a given attachment circuit. So if, for example, you need to modify the attachment circuit, you will have, I would say, an information about the implication on the impact on the services that are bound in it. We added also support for the parent attachment circuits. So this is to cover also some complex cases. For example, if you have an attachment circuit at layer 3 and you have a switch in between of them, and you don't want to repeat the information about layer 2 in your, I would say, attachment circuit, you can just inherit from the parent one, and then you are done. We also support the feasibility check. So if this model is used outside NITConf, there are some, I would say, requirements that before you request the actual activation of the service, you want first to check if the service is available, and then once you have this information, then you can request it. So that's what we call the feasibility check. So we have explicit support for it right now in the attachment circuit and also the bearer. So all the technical issues we have for the specifications are now closed. We have just 2 items that we would like to include in the next iteration of the draft. Is just to add more examples to illustrate some of the complex cases. The one about the dynamic, for example, if you have in a cloud, for example, you have multiple network functions and with dynamic assignment of IP addresses, and you don't want to expose this complexity into your service. We will show how to do it with the current model we have. So the example is ready, and we will integrate it into the next iteration of the specifications. So no other issue on this one. For the network model itself, again, we received the review from Merton on it. So no major issue again, only very few fixes just to fix some the way we are referencing some lifts. So we edited we released the versions to update this review, and we also made some, I would say, minor modifications on the specifications, basically on the way we are structuring the attachment circuit. In the previous version I presented here in OPSAWG working group, we have the attachment circuit that are bound directly into the SAP. But because the SAPs are also indexed per service, the same attachment circuits may appear in multiple SAPs. And we found that one is suboptimal in terms of, I would say, compactness of the model. So we just changed it in the other way around. Does that mean that the list of attachment circuits are directly attached to the node, and then we have at the under SAP, we just reference the one that are applicable to that SAP. So one attachment circuit is just created once, and then you graft it to the appropriate SAP as a function of the service you are using. And then we added this the BGP, the customized BGP capability support for it. So if for some of the customers you don't want to support, for example, multiple path, and this can be requested in the service itself, and this is not part of your default configuration, then you can with this model you can control it. We don't have any independent issues so far for this one. The last one in the set is the what we call the glue. It's how we augmented the various VPN models there, the layer 2 SM, L2 SM, L2NM, and L3NM, so that they can reuse attachment circuits. So this one we received the young director review, no issue so far for it, and we have no we are just ready to move for it. So in summary, we think that we are almost ready for the full documents. Modulo the 2 missing examples that we are planning to add into the attachment circuit as a service. So we will add those. We're still waiting for the routing directory review. So thank you, Tiaran, for arranging that. But we 3 of them are not received. So we will wait for some few weeks. And then if there is no, I would say, no news from the RTG, and then once we release the new version, my proposal for the working group is to call the set of the documents. So I don't know if there are any questions or comments on the attachment circuits.
Do you have, oh, these are your appendix, okay?
Yeah. Yeah, so this is for IPv6. Normally, Benoit, it's up to you. Okay, so this is an update of the various sets of the IPv6 specification we have there. The documents were in the working group last call here in OPSA, but also in various working groups, TCPM, TSV working group 6-man, and IPv6. And we received all the directorate reviews, and all of those were already addressed. And we also addressed the Shepherd review from Thomas, thanks to Thomas. Just to give you, I would say, an update of some main changes we made during the as part of the working class call. We used to have an update of the description of the TCP and the IPv6 extension headers in the simple IPv6 fixes. But we just removed them as an outcome of the discussion we had during the working class call, because people think that it's more cleaner just we deprecate them. In beginning, we don't want to do that because we were not sure about the I would say the implementation of the deployments. But then Benoit contacted, I would say, I don't remember the name. The guy who shared with us all the traces about the checking whether the information elements were implemented or not. But anyway, it happens that those are not implemented. So if we deprecated them, there is no new implications on it. So that's why we just remove the registry there from the simple specifications. And we also received a comment why we are not updating the base IPv6. This is basically because the registry is the authoritative source for it and not the RFC itself. We clarified all of this in the document and then made various editorial changes just to enhance the readability of the document. So in the TCP and IPv6 extension headers, so as I mentioned for the previous slide, we just deprecate formally these two information element there. And we defined a new abstract data type to cover the flags that are encoded into 150.56. So this will be applicable for the TCP options in UEs and also for the UDP stuff. We changed the way we are doing the encoding for some of the use. This is a comment we received from Paul. So we are using the subtemplate for it right now. And so then because we are using that template, we introduce new information elements that will be the simple one, and then we will glue them with the list. We received a comment from the TSV review about how an implementation identifies the shared experimental ID in a TCP options, because as you know, not all the experimental TCP options has an experimental ID, so we need something to tell the implementation how to identify that. So we have the appropriate text agreed with this, and we include it in the spec. For the UDP options, yeah, basically the main change during the working class call is to use this new abstract data type. So it's there. We are just referring to the specification about the TCP and the extension headers, and we are just using there. There is one comment that we received from Paul. He's complained that for the use of the octet arrays, that he wants that it will be better to define another abstract data type I would say, for the set of the 2 octets or 4 octets. But for us, we think that's it doesn't. Yeah, purely for a purist, we can define this kind of new abstract type, but we don't think that it is worth to be done for it, because if you interpret the way the octet array is defined in the current RFCs, it's up to the implementer of the information element to, I would say, to parse it and to know how exact number of octets are included on it. So we didn't make any modifications for that part. For the various specifications, we send the outcome, at least our way of whether we don't want we don't see any value in the change since last January, but there is no follow-up since then. So we think there is no push for that. So at least for our side, we think that this is this is an issue which is close so far. So for the next steps, yeah, we think that's all the versions that are currently available on the tracker are ready and address all the reviews received from the directorate and during the working group last call. Modulo, the one that I mentioned previously, and the chief directives are also ready on that tracker. So I think that we are ready to move forward for this
one. As the chair that kicked this off, first of all, Thomas, where are you? Thank you for taking this. Simple fixes is probably not the right name for all this, was it? On that last issue, if you could go back, did you document that in the Shepherd write-up? This was a little roughness in the discussion here. You didn't hand, so please
Sorry.
name and whatnot.
Thomas Graf. Yes, I updated the Shepherd review, so also in terms of the data type, so should be everything.
Thanks. Yeah, well,
Okay, thank you.
we'll move it forward.
And this was our one and only exception we made today. If you want to go to the mic, you must use the tool. Scan the QR code, please.
Not this.
No, you, okay.
You have the clicker?
I mean, not.
Oh, not this slide. Oh, yes. This is, sorry, bad Joe. We went out of order.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
So, hello everyone. My name is Tufan, and on behalf of the authors, I would like to present the update of this draft. So, at the time of last IETF meeting, we still have a couple of open issues tracked at the GitHub repo. And over the past few months, the authors worked really hard to resolve these open issues. Like we need to emphasize what hardware ramifications might exist and what operational trade-offs one would consider to use this group-based SL policy. So now the current version of the draft has added a new section for implementation considerations to clarify that this endpoint group-based SL model can be implemented in different ways. And if the implementations needs the policy enforcement point to be group aware, then there is some dedicated hardware and software support might be needed. And also the implementations needed to evaluate the operational trade-off very carefully, which includes the flexibility brought to the network versus the complexity of implementation to use this group-based SL model. And we also add the rationale for endpoint group ID defined as a string instead of an integer, so that we think it could be accommodate the deployments which require more some identification hierarchy, and such a hierarchy could be helpful to ease some coordination within an administrative domain. And we also clarify the mapping of the endpoint group string to the ID integer is now out of the scope. And we define the application group now as the another endpoint group type in addition to the user group and device group. And this application group refers to a collection of applications that share common access control policies. And now we have listed the endpoint groups definition under the ACL's containers instead of the ACL list. We believe that this endpoint group should be independent of a given ACL entry. And now we have defined the endpoint group type as identity ref for the accessibility instead of using I think it's the choice case for each definition. And the last update is that we have reflected the recent updates of the schedule young data module, which is separated from this draft now because of the wide applicability of this scheduling itself. So this slide gives the current module design. So generally we have three parts of this UCL module. The first part is the endpoint group definition under the SL containers. For this definition, we have defined the endpoint group list with the most necessary group ID and type is defined here. And then we augment the matches container to allow the source and /or destination group ID to be allowed to as one of the matching criteria. And the third part is we add some scheduling related parameters to allow this each access control entry to be activated based on a scheduled time. So two kind of schedules are used. One is a period of time and another is a recurrence rule. So these are groupings we used directly from the schedule young data module separated from this draft. And for the next steps, the authors would like to request the working group to review the document updates and provide your feedback. And we will also continuously align with the schedule young data module in that individual draft until it's stable. And then after then, the authors believe it might be ready for working group last call. Okay, that's it. Are there any comments, questions?
I have a question because this, it seems it has dependency on the schedule young model, but the schedule young model is still individual, how you could move it to last call.
So, I mean, we need to wait till that draft be adopted and ready for working group last call at least. I mean, finally they need to be published together, like, so there is dependency, right? But we don't want to be too slow, so we hope to move that draft as quickly as possible.
So this is Henk as a IETF victim. I've seen a draft that I work on being in a cluster for 2.5 years. And we are an RFC ed, and the module that we're waiting for changed so much that it's not an editorial change anymore. I don't even know that we can stay in RFC ed. So alignment is something that you want to do before you end up in a cluster, I guess. So I think that something, talk to the schedule people and make them run.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so, then I think we can move to the next presentation, which is talk about this schedule work. Okay. So for this work, as the IETF, when I add the authors of different drafts that are related to the scheduling, had a side meeting to discuss how the scheduling work should be done to fit the various requirements. So now, based on that, the outcome of the side meeting, the authors have updated the draft to reflect the outcome. Now we have defined the different versions of the recurrence-related groupings for the sake of modularity. So from simple to comprehensive definitions of recurrence. And we define the features to allow for different implementation options. And we also add the sample modules to exemplify how the feature modules can use or extend this schedule young data module. So now we have a wide use of this scheduling draft now. So in addition to the UCL work I presented earlier, we have the scheduling OIM task work led by Louis, I believe, to implement the on-demand network diagnosis using OIM test in a precise period of time based on a recurrence rule. And we still have another work from the TVR working group, the TVR schedule young to implement the scheduler network resources and topologies changes in a time variant routing systems. So since we also received some comments from Louis of this, and the document also incorporates some of them into the latest revision, and we now add a generic schedule parameters defined to validate the requested schedules and add the schedule status grouping for the scheduling management or scheduling status exposure. And there are some other comments are still open for discussion. So if you are interested, feel free to share your comments and suggestions. And we also seek the cross-working group reviews. We put the document update to TVR working group. We do receive the positive feedback from TVR working group, as well as some comments related to the examples we show in the appendix about how to use or extend this schedule young data model. Okay, so given a lot of normative dependencies of this draft, so the authors would like to request the working group to adopt this work. We believe we are now ready to move forward. Okay, that's it.
So Rob Wilson, I'm wondering whether this is the right place for this document rather than NetMod. So I think I was chatting to Kent earlier today, and he'd mentioned that he had a draft that's very similar, conditional configuration draft about applying, and that was in NetMod previously, and about how you apply configuration conditionally and modify it over time. I haven't had a chance to read this, but if it's related to that topic, and it's sort of almost like affecting more the core language or core behavior of Yang, I think that would be a better place than here, is my gut instinct.
So these are some groupings related to the scheduling, not related to any like netconf or configurations. So just a set of groupings defined, and the very initial thought for the authors to discuss it here, because we have the UCL draft separated, also discussed in the Ops area working group, and we also have another OIM task also discussed here. So we thought it might be convenient for it to discuss there, so that some cross-working group coordination could be saved and some effort could be saved.
Okay, if you can present in NetMod, that would be great. I don't know if there'll be time. They did have some time in the agenda. I don't know if that's now been filled, but
Okay.
it might be worth speaking to Kent and seeing if that's an option.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Speaking of which, I think Kent just joined the queue.
Kent Watson. Yeah, sorry, there's no time at the end of the NetMod session. We're completely booked because of the delay tolerant networking. The draft that Rob is referring to is called conditional enablement. And in that was basically metadata attribute that could be used for the inactive. People talk about deactivating nodes, like commenting out nodes. Is useful for that, also useful for time-based scheduling. And I forget the third use. It was so long ago, it never got, we never adopted it, but it was thoughtful. Currently, one of those three things, the inactive part of it, is under consideration to be made part of core Yang language. So in that sense, maybe this could be thought of as something as core as well. So to Rob's point, it's at least worth a discussion to see which working group it's best to go to.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tony? Power management.
Hi, I'm Tony Lee. This is joint work with Ron Bonica. I have 5 minutes. I'm going to be talking really fast. Keep up. All right, what we're trying to do is to control power in routers and other things that are out there. We are trying to do this down to a fairly granular level. We want power consumption. We want power control. We're trying to also get to dependencies between various components in the box. Those aren't captured in a lot of Yang models right now, and we kind of need to know about that. We also have cases where we want to be able to tell the box what's going to happen. There are lots of optimizations that we can do inside the box if we know what traffic is going to be. So first proposal, oh, by the way, Ron and I are Yang newbies. If we screwed up the Yang, please tell us, we'll fix it. So first leaf here is a used power. This is just reports on a per component basis. How much power am I using? For an NPU, this might be 200 watts. If this is for optics, we might be 25 watts. kind of important, useful thing to be able to understand. Power save, we want to be able to turn off various components. If something's not being used, we want to be able to turn it down and put it into a low power state. How you implement low power is up to you, but we want to be able to turn it on and off. And before we do that, we want the box to tell us that it can do this, so we don't waste our time. And then we also want to be able to tell the box whether it should do its own internal automatic power management or not. This is kind of important because if things inside the box go wrong, we would like to be able to turn it off. We have lots and lots of dependencies inside the box. We have line cards that are dependent on switch cards. And so we'd like to be able to have a Yang model that tells us, okay, this line card is dependent on these switch cards. Don't turn off my switch cards if I'm still carrying traffic. The tree chart representation is here. Maybe we got this right. We want to be able to do traffic planning. We can do lots and lots of things inside a switch fabric that allow us to optimize the switch fabric if we know exactly how much traffic is going to be there. If we can say for the next 30 minutes that the traffic is only going to be 30% of capacity, we can turn off 70% of the switch. Huge savings. This is useful. But most of the fabrics will not be turned off today because people cannot anticipate their traffic. They don't know. So all the switches are on full power, full time. Bad. That's it. Any questions?
David Lamparter, the granularity of 1 watt seems to be a bit large. Was there any discussion about that, or?
There has been. We point out that OpenConfig has already gone down this and created that leaf, and it's in the watt level in OpenConfig, where our customers are twisting our arm, trying not to create more complexity. I know it's heresy, but I would like to see IETF and OpenConfig converge.
So I'm not going to speak about OpenConfig and IETF converging, but in terms of this, I think it's important work. I think in terms of like green networking things, we should be trying to get stuff done quickly. And earlier, I've already chatted to you at the reception. I think we should be trying to target a BOF to collect the green networking related work into its own focused working group. So that's my hope. I won't be the AD doing it. It'll be Mahesh, but I think he's aligned with that view. So people in the room, if you're interested in this and you think that'd be useful, go and talk to Tony and say, yes, I'll help you do that.
Thank you very much. We'd very much like to go down that path if it's going to happen. If not, we would like to be adopted here. We did present this to Ivy, and they sent us here.
Tommy, this is Qiu, and I think in addition to the component level energy consumption monitoring, have you considered device level energy consumption monitoring? And,
yes, this falls out. If you don't want to do component level, you can just model at the device level. And because the component, the way that we model hardware is recursive, you can just report at the top level, and you then end up at device level monitoring and control.
Yeah. So also for energy consumption, you may have some capability, whether you support energy saving or what energy saving method you can use. So actually, I want to point out, there's another draft. Actually, we plan to present in the RV working group, and maybe overlap with your draft. I think maybe happy to discuss with you how this can be harmonized.
Let's talk with the ADs and figure out where to go.
Marisol, I'll relinquish to you as I want to go last.
Thank you. Thanks, Tony, for this. I just wanted to mention that 2 things. There is a site meeting on Thursday, local time, 9 a.m., where we are going to discuss further on different proposals for power metrics, and inviting you, Tony, to be part of that site meeting as well, where we have thinking about the next steps, and probably we can have a good discussion. And the second one, with regards to this component device level, we have a proposal for the ALMO, where we are putting a high level on anything that might be referred as the component device level collected by this asset. And I think it fits really well the concept, just abstracting to which component we can defer, right, on the power metrics as well. It's kind of a use case, I would say. Thank you.
Cool, thank you.
I have a actual contributor question, but I'm going to save that for the list because of time. How much time, Rob, as a chair, how much time should we wait? This is not the first time that green has been presented in OPSAWG. If Tony and Alex, Marisol, if they want to ask for adoption, do we wait for something to happen before that, or do we entertain it here?
You wait. You wait until there's a clear indication as to whether a BOF is going to happen. So really, that means that the proponents need to get together, and there's various people who help guide this process, aiming for a BOF, a working group forming BOF for 120, and that BOF decision would happen somewhere in between. So I guess in like 2.5 months' time, 2 months' time. So at that stage, we'll get an indication. And the reason I'm not so keen for the work to come here is because it feels that OPSAWG, it picks up groups of different sorts of work, and you don't necessarily get the same good reviews and cross reviews across the different bits of work. So I feel like a focused working group on this and some related green networking stuff would be good. Short-term stuff is a better approach. I think you'll get a better solution and a more wider review.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. While I'm loading the next slides, Kent, if you're still here, Med would like you to share his that draft you were talking about.
Okay, I'll try to be fast. This is an update of the draft that we have on signatures for Jan data provenance. Can you move? Oh. Okay. So news since then. We were on discussions as it seems that there is a general agreement that the using COSI and the format of COSI that we were proposing, it was sort of okay, but there was some discussions on where those signatures should appear. So at the end, the draft contains right now 4 different, what they have called enclosing methods. And we will go through them later on. That has implied some restructuring of the text. We in parallel have been running some proof of concept that are quite promising, and I hope to have something to show in the hackathon in Vancouver. We have incorporated a few authors as well, people that have been coming with some contributions, mostly related to the enclosing methods, and well, fixes, etc. And on Wednesday, if I remember well, this will be introduced to NetBond as well. So enclosing methods, I have classified in 2 different categories. One is provenance elements. First is the original idea that any place in a jam schema you could put a reference to a provenance signature, plus the idea that was contributed as well. It was proposed to use it as part of the notifications inside junk push. So both ways of using provenance are discussed in the draft, plus other 2 ways of dealing with provenance signatures as metadata, whether they are in data at rest inside a Jan data file, or as if we want to make them appear as annotations. In all cases, you have the schemas and the proposal for the updates on the schemas. They are highlighted in red here and there. And well, that has included a new, in the draft, there is a new mechanism for discussing the different recursion issues. The idea that you can include a provenance signature that impacts or is referred to a particular element or to a set of enclosing elements, and is discussed where or what the implications of the full recursion has in the different format for all the methods and for whatever the combination of those. Just to give you an example, you can have an annotation in an outer element that contains a list of individually signed elements as in the leaves or whatever other combination that you think of. The this is, let me say, this is something that is important, so we can have aggregation and we can guarantee that the aggregation can contain or is suitable for provenance validation as well. And well, we, as I said, this is going to be discussed in NetMod as well. There was a suggestion from our ID, I guess it was Rob, right? So I don't know, I mean, whatever comes out of the discussion on NetMod, I'm totally open. I mean, personally, I like this group, but I don't have any problem in going to another group to discuss this. And well, the immediate work to do is there are some sections that are to be discussed, and we are planning to continue gathering implementation experience. As I said, the initial results that we have are quite promising. And once my idea right now, and taking into account how things are evolving, is that when we have this an operational demonstrator that shows that this works and it works in a reasonable way, to ask for adoption here or wherever it is. And that's all from my side.
I think we're doing okay on time. If there are any questions. You considered running a hackathon project for this?
Yeah. That's the plan.
Okay.
Once we have something that is worth showing, or showing or integrating at least, yes.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Diego. I'm told the role of Carlos will be played by Adrian Farrell for this next presentation.
Right. Yeah. So sorry, Carlos is enjoying time in Africa, and the internet doesn't do what he wants. So you get me. Next slide, please. We're wasting your time largely because Carlos had an idea and I forgot to say no. We are seeing a lot of drafts in a number of working groups, and not just in this area, that use the term in-band OAM and out-of-band OAM. And usually in context of the drafts, it's clear, but it's not consistent across documents. And we're a little worried that the in-band has no particular meaning in the context of a packet network. Additionally, some of those cases are drawing on more precise and specific meanings. So next slide. What we want to do is achieve clear and consistent terminology that can be applied in all future documents. We're not looking to fix RFCs that are out there or even late-stage drafts. And we want those terms to be precise and unvarying. Next slide. So this is just a starting point to call out the problem and suggest some terms to use going forward. We almost certainly have this very wrong, but we welcome criticism of what we've done and correction so we can make this work. This is not intended as a criticism of anything that's already been done. It's just an attempt to make things better in the future. Next slide. So those key terms, we've got don'ts and do's. So the don'ts are don't use in-band and out-of-band OAM. Do talk about OAM that's related to a path, OAM that's related to a packet, and OAM that is related to the treatment of a packet, and enable a combination of those terms. Next slide. Along the way, we thought about some additional terms, and I suspect these are causing or going to cause much more debate. This is the old active, passive, hybrid concepts that already exist coming from IPPM. And we thought that whilst those terms have been used, they haven't been precisely used for OAM. They've been used for performance monitoring, and we'd like to tighten that up. Next slide. So what could happen? What could happen is that we chuck it out, either because nobody cares, which is perfectly fine, or because it's either obvious that it's wrong or obvious that Carlos and I are stupid. Alternatively, we could decide it needs more discussion, fixing the terms, adding more terms, taking some terms out, and that would obviously happen on a mailing list, and then we would return and discuss it at a future meeting. And we could decide if it's urgent, and if so, adopt it into the working group before polishing, so that we know that the reason we're doing it is because the working group cares. And that gives precisely 53 seconds for the queue.
Hello, Thomas Graf speaking. I care. I think it's wonderful work. And just a few comments. It would benefit if we could also add the so-called ORM node terminology. Like in RFC 9378, we have IOM encapsulation node, transit node, and decapsulation node. That would be awesome if we could add that terminology here as well.
Thank you, Thomas. Your mic was really pretty low there, but hopefully that's in the minutes, and I'll talk to you afterwards.
So Rob Wilton, so thank you for bringing this work. So one quick question though is whether we need to involve other groups and things. So if IPPM have been busy defining these other definitions and using them, how do we get coordination and make sure that if we define something here, that everyone agrees with them and gets consistency? So I'm not sure whether everyone we need to be discussing these terms is in this room at the moment. So that's the only concern I have, is how do we get the right set of people together?
So yeah, I completely agree, and this is not just cross working groups in the ops area, but cross area. And for the next 2 days, Rob, that's your problem.
Thank you.
I will say, as chair, I've seen a lot of the discussion already on lists, and I believe IPPM people have been involved in it. I do wonder if we shouldn't kick off something here to drive this discussion, maybe as an adoption call. And if it comes back with like cross-link to IPPM, if it comes back, no, we need more work, then we at least know what the answer is.
Yeah, that sounds fine with me. I don't see there's any issue with trying and progressing this. And if it then changes in future to a different state, then that's also fine. So I have no issues with that.
Thank you, Carlos. Adrian. We do have time, and you're going to be limited to exactly those 5 minutes for the exceeds time. So Sriram, are you there?
Yes, Joe. Am I audible?
Go.
Perfect. Hello, everyone. Warm greetings from Bangalore, India. My name is Sriram. I'm working for Cisco. And this is very happy to say that this is my first IETF participation experience. I have the privilege of co-authoring with this draft with Thomas from Swisscom, Benoit from Huawei, who are right now in person attending this meeting, and also we have Daniel from Bell Canada and Vyasraj from Juniper, who are along with me on this draft. So the aim of this draft is to introduce new IPFix information elements to identify a set of information related to the GTPU protocol. Next slide, please. GTPU stands for GPRS Tunneling Protocol User Plane. This is widely used by mobile network operators in their cellular networks. So this is how a typical GTPU header looks like, defined by 3GPP technical specification. The exported information from this GTPU header, like the tunnel endpoint identifier called as TEID, QFI, cars, flow information, will help in providing data plane visibility and also identify the transport performance of PDU sessions. Next slide, please. So here is a glimpse of list of fields from the GTPU header, so which will include some of the information elements like flags, message type, TAID, the most important one, sequence number. Next slide, please. And the associated extension header, one of that extension header is this PDU session container header, where this class information and the PDU type information is specified. So these are the some of the information that will be exported in the IPFix. Next slide, please. So we got an opportunity to have an implementation for this in iOS XR, Cisco iOS XR, and is being tested in Bell Labs. So this is a test code, and when IANA pre-allocates the IPFix entities, it will be replaced by those. Yeah, next slide, please. So here is our request. We wish to avoid using private enterprise numbers and we'll be requesting for IPFix IANA allocation this week. So this draft could progress to document the use cases and will be helpful for 3GPP references also, as that is a separate standard development organizations. Since this draft travel between the two SDOs, one is IETF for IPFix and 3GPP for GTPU, we wish to socialize this draft in the working group and also facilitate discussions around the draft. And we would request for the adoption also. Yep. Thank you.
Thomas. You're not in queue. Okay, Chin.
Yeah, this is Qin, and for this GTPU, I think it probably is developed in 3GPP. I'm wondering whether is any coordination, needed to make sure, this really, fit the requirement in the 3GPP.
Sorry, is your question whether any correlation needed for this?
Yeah, just a question. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so we saw a need for such a correlation from the Bell Canada use case, right? So that's where we thought we will have this done here.
I think one of the things, and one of the reasons we were a little hesitant to give you time here was because it was just recently published or submitted to Data Tracker, and there hadn't been a lot of discussion on the list. I know you've pushed it out to OPSAWG at. I would encourage, before any call for adoption, there's more conversation about this, and I think Chin's question was around whether or not this should be done more on the 3GPP side, maybe, but I think there needs to be more on-list discussion.
Okay.
Thank you, Sriram. And I
Thank
think
you.
with that, we are on to, oh, Rob is waving his hands.
Are you about to go on to the ops area bit?
I was.
So I was just, because there's quite a lot of time and we're not sure we've got that much to discuss. I was wondering whether it's worth doing a show of hands on the previous documents, the one that Adrian presented, to find the number of people who have read that and whether there is interest in trying to progress that more quickly, as in, are there people interested in adopting that? Because I think it feels to me that if there's been discussion on that and there is people coordinating, we could ask that now and maybe sort of progress it a little more quickly.
Okay. As ordered, is there an interest to adopt the previous presented work, the OAM terminology work here in OPSAWG? You can say yes, you are interested in working on this. You think this is interesting and you want to work on this. No, either you don't think it's interesting or you don't want to work on it, or no opinion, you choose not to raise your hand either way. So you can get into the data, into the Meet Echo tool and put in your results. Just when I thought it was done. Okay, 13 say yes, 18 have no opinion on this, and no one seems to think, no, this is not worth working on, or explicitly says, no, this is not worth working on.
Yeah, it's up to you. I'm not sure how to read this. I guess I would interpret this as maybe more discussions are needed. So maybe now is a bit preemptive. So I don't think it's like a flashing yes. We should progress with this at pace. It sounds like we can go a little bit slower, maybe.
That's fair. I was just trying to the discussion on the list has kind of died off because maybe instead of a call for adoption, it's worth putting this back out there as an email thread to try and drive more discussion. There has been some chat. There has been some. Where did the chat go? There has been some chat discussion here on it, so I think maybe bringing that back to the list and driving more of this discussion would be useful in support of what you're saying, Rob. Okay. Any other comments on OAM before we send it over to our distinguished area directors? Okay, Rob, with that, you and Mahesh have the floor. I will. You didn't have any slides that I saw. No. I'll help take minutes if you want. Yeah, or open mic.
It looks like it's going to be open mic time. So obviously, I want to thank you all as I disappear in a couple of days' time, and welcome Mahesh, who's going to do a marvelous job as well. Any questions either for me as an outgoing AD or any questions for Mahesh as he comes in? Ideally, we'd have Warren in the room, but he's busy in DNS op, and I don't see him. And I don't know if he's coming. I did ask, but I couldn't see him. So now's a chance for any questions either on what I've done or what Mahesh is planning to do. John, unless you want to say anything about
No, I just wanted to say he's not quite off, so I can't even say thank you, Rob, for all the work you've done. But yes, we should acknowledge Rob for all the years of service. He's been helping me transition, so thank you for that. And any questions, as he said, for either one of us?
Benoit speaking. So it's not a comment, it's a big thank you to you, Rob, for what you've been doing for 4 years. I know being an AD is sometimes an unthankful job, and you understand after a couple of years, the years of service for the community. So big thanks to you.
Thank you.
I too thank you. You've been not just in as an area director, but also as kind of helping on some of the netmod things. So it's been this will be nice because now you'll be able to be more vocal there. But thank you very much for all the mentorship and all the leadership here in Ops area. Mahesh, since Rob brought it up, what are your plans as Ops area director?
Right. I think a couple of topics that should be of interest across this area. One, that I think Bitmo started with, which is how do we make the Yang models work together? I think that's one of the areas that I would like to focus on in my years as a service. The rough edges where things don't meet, are there overlapping models, is certainly an area of focus for me. The other is just this whole discussion of adoption in the industry and what is preventing it or what would enable actually more adoption of Yang models. So those certainly are two areas that I would like to focus on. The third, which is kind of related, is of course the RFC 3535 and what comes next, trying to identify what we got right, certainly, acknowledge that, but also what we did not get right, and maybe more importantly, what we need to look at to enable true automation of the network.
Questions? So any questions? No, I think it's going once, going twice. We're done. Thank you.